Thank you very much to both of you for these very different but connected talks and different focus and target points. Open for discussion. Are there any questions about the history of Ostia, about 3D voxeling and any stuff, or to both of them? Just going on. Yes, please.
Well, I have a question. Is this mainly a training ground for archaeologists concerning techniques and ways to go about work, or besides, the dating of an earthquake, are there results that are valid within the context of ancient history or Roman history or economic Roman history or whatever?
If I did get your point right, you asked if it can be connected on a bigger scale from the Ostia city history to, let's say, big economical shifts and other questions. Is that true, or did I not get it? Of course, I mean, if there would be no time limit, we can go easily to a broader picture. This is the same earthquake which is connected by the very interesting evidence of the Crypta Balbi excavations to Rome, and the big city quarter in the Campus Martius obviously also shows final destruction to temples and porticos and lots of representative buildings around AD 443. And this is also based on a very profound and analyzed excavation. It's also a very nice exhibition which I can recommend, the Crypta Balbi. And so it is nowadays, as far as I was taking part in this Archaeological colloquium and others to the end of the Roman city, this is now one of the main times which is now more or less considered as a really turning point in the urban topography. It's not anymore, of course, the beginning decades of the 5th century. It's more or less this middle of the 5th century where clear division between maintaining public important buildings and not anymore maintaining most of these buildings can be traced. So this evidence for Ostia would be a very interesting let's say, point in the whole landscape when every city history has to be, of course, analyzed in detail if we have similar events. And then, of course, we can rewrite a lot of economic history, if this is possible, also together with the evidence from Portus, of course, which is now done by Simon Key and other colleagues from... bit per bit, it will add to a broader picture, definitely. But this was not really the question of today. I wanted to say from the very micro scale area of one single trench, which is very limited, it was just 1 meter by 1 meter, to already the city is quite a big way going macro scale. So the future may go further macro scale with lots of new works, I hope.
Any more questions? I have one archaeological question. Do you have any traces of flooding events which might occur due to the situation, and how much destruction, how destructive were these events?
Mm-hmm. That is also, but it's also based on completely unpublished material, therefore I can just say it will be, it's not my excavation, it's this excavation on the Porta Marina project, and my excavation of the last 2 years in one little corner room of the forum. We have the same evidence. We have a very thick layer of clay coming from a clear flooding catastrophe, which is connected to the earthquake and which can be roughly dated with the same coin material. And so we have the working hypothesis that we have also some tsunami-like event, but as a successor of the earthquake. That means there was the earthquake from the Apennine and maybe causing some sea waves, and these sea waves, of course, are harming Ostia as being attached to the seashore just by a few hundred meters. So this is only a working hypothesis so far.
Okay, thank you. I have a question to Undine and your work. One is about basically, let's say, the scalability of this digital intense documentation, especially talking about, you said that you were scanning each layer after and before
Yep.
removal, so to say.
Mhm.
I can imagine that the scanning itself is not that time consuming, but the after processing of all that data is quite time consuming. Or, well, it depends, or that's the question actually. How time consuming is it, and how scalable is it to take this workflow on more trenches in larger scale? So how is the benefit on site and the after processing and so on?
Yeah. First of all, there is a benefit, of course, because you can document a whole surface in a very tight resolution. So in general, it's not a waste of time. But as I said, I compared two methods, so laser scanning and structure from motion. And I cannot really say which one is better. I can say one fits better to a certain environment. So, for example, the laser scanning, it's not so fast as you imagine, because it takes time to register, because you want to adjust to your coordinate system. That's why, first of all, when you set up your system, then you georeference your system, and then it took roughly, because of this high resolution, 20 minutes to scan one surface. And in this 20 minutes and plus 10 minutes before and after that, people can do nothing at the excavation. And this was also a reason why we opened up two other trenches simultaneously. Then you have to find a workflow. So the team cannot do something, so you can move the team to another trench, and then you can scan, and after the scan, then you can work further. It's similar with the structure for motion technique. So structure for motion technique has a disadvantage. You don't know how resolution will come out of your photographs. So structure for motion, if some is not familiar with this technique, you just take pictures from different angles, and according to certain algorithms, you can create a 3D point cloud out of these pictures. So it's actually a quite cheap documentation method, because every archaeologist has a digital camera, but you don't know what comes out. So this is the greatest disadvantage, I would say, from structural motion, in comparison to the laser scan, where you see on the fly what you scan. So this is because you want to work further and you don't have time as an archaeologist. It's important to know, did you document everything you wanted? So structure for motion needs in general a lot of pictures to make sure you have a tight point cloud. And when you have good material, good surface, good light conditions, then you can get, in some cases, a better resolution than a laser scanner. This is what I showed in my comparison. So taking a lot of pictures from different kind of angles, when you have a very detailed surface, can also take 20 minutes. So I can't say which one is faster. So it depends.
How is the time about the post-processing?
Post-processing. It's actually quite fast with the laser scanner software, because it's proprietary. Of course, they have to be fast. But then including it into your system and transform it into a GIS system. It took me, because this is a prototype, it took me a lot of time to find out what kind of formats are suitable. How do I not lose information? So now when I know the process, it's getting faster. The same is true for the structure for motion method. When you have taken, for example, 100 or 200 pictures just from one surface, it can take you several hours to generate this point cloud. So it depends on your machine, and normally you don't have a fast machine on your excavation. So structure for motion, this is still a debate. When can you use it? When is it effective? So from my point of view, I would create a tight workflow taking pictures, then put it to someone who has a fast machine, maybe in a building next to the excavation. Maybe in Ostia it's quite possible you can work in such an environment. But when you are directly in the field and you just have a laptop, it's difficult. So this is my conclusion. And in general, to say taking or documenting in comparison to post-processing takes 3 to 4 times more time than a documentation. So this is also what I can say about it. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Wolfgang, please.
About the earthquakes with the Richter scale of 8 to 10, I'm a little confused because this is actually a very broad spectrum, which would be from extreme to really extreme, and I don't know of any evidence that earthquakes of this level did happen in Italy. And so is this really the Richter scale?
They say he used in his book the parameter, and there's one, I just had a look, on one page also that he used all his appendix with the Richter scale. And by the way, it is the strongest recorded, so even in a relative way, he didn't record stronger ones there in that book. So. But I think this is, of course, I mean, it's based on written sources of 2 lines. One of the lines is all houses and porticos of a certain area collapsed. And of course, we are dealing with a written source. I mean, he just said he defines Richter scale adequate destruction scenarios. And he said if all houses and porticos, that means also solid houses, not only porticos based on columns, were collapsed, and then the whole area altogether was collapsed, that is what the antique sources say, nothing more, nothing less, then we can assume it could be a very, very damaging earthquake. But of course, we don't have to debate about Richter scale or not Richter scale. I mean, it's just based on one sentence. So, of course, that is what historians have to do, or in this case, specialists and maybe a future analysis will detect. But we have also strong evidence of earthquake in the archaeology of Rome, like I said, in this Cryptobalbi scenario, and so it can be probably also approved to a certain extent by geologists and professionals. That's also what Laura and this engineer wants to do in the future, and therefore, because it's a quite new question to see the effects of earthquake, of historic earthquake on the brick walls, which we have, very highly standing brick walls in Ostia partly. So there could be also quite nice field for future research, and maybe we find out, of course, that is crap, it's just 5 or 6. I don't know. That will be the future. But of course, it's only, he has a long explanation how he defines it, of course. And if it's based like a whole area collapses altogether, that's the worst what can happen so far.
I can say something. In the Institut, there are many traces, many evidences. Sorry, with him. I don't know this one. Sorry, the answer. So no. So there are many traces, and they're very, very clear now what was the direction, for example. So that's very interesting. And of course, this is a work in progress, and we have many important information in the future.
That means the direction where the earthquake could have come from, and therefore we can also judge the epicenter by archaeology, not only by the written sources, which is an interesting coincidence. So bit by bit, this may add to a more common picture during the process of the work.
I have another question to both of you actually. Is the strategy or the concept for publishing this data? I mean, you have a lot of data and you mixed all the resources into one system, which requires some sort of technical infrastructure, let's call it, or application. And so the question is how you can disseminate that, on one hand, either reducing the complexity of the data to some single sections, files, drawings, or to produce or leave the complexity. And so what are your ideas about transferring this massive, I mean impressive amount of data to others?
Yeah, this is absolutely the main question, definitely. I mean, we have a few more years to decide. Of course, we are obliged to do a written, nice, printed publication, which will be not only interim reports, of course, but also a main publication. But on the other hand, we would like to do some web-based GIS so that people can have access, also even with limited access for bigger amounts of data, and with maybe not limited access for a certain kind of amount of data. And many of these applications already do work with web-based GIS systems, and so I think that is definitely the future which we can develop in the next years. And hopefully we find a platform where we can, which covers all the costs. And but we're looking forward to publish all data in that way on 2 columns, of course, when it's written and digital.
But there exists already your web page, the Ostia forum.
Yeah, that's more or less a blog. That's just stories around, a bit of information, also about archaeology, how it works. So it's not that only very scientific approach only. So it's more or less a nice to read area. But there should be also maybe an addition, for example, one of the links which we can do to maybe the German aerospace. They already offered one time that at least we could use their servers for the big data, and they would at least guarantee to have a long time perspective for their servers. Stuff like this. Also the Humboldt now has lots of possibilities, and by having attached our project now to a long-term more long-term project, so I can also think we could base it half on German aerospace and or Humboldt.
Yeah.
Yes, another question.
Is that statue on the photography replica?
Oh, no, that's a random find, which was re-erected during after the 1924 excavations, and there's no recorded detail in the Giornale di Scavi. That's quite normal, because at this time they wanted to make a nice impression, and probably this statue is not from the forum itself. But Kaltz at this time he used everything also with the columns. Sometimes it's a nice modern puzzle if you look at Ostia nowadays. But at least for the columns we have original builds from 1924 when the workers rebuilt them, and they said we worked with this, and it took us 1 week.
Okay. If there were no further questions, at least for this round, I thank you once again to both of you. Good luck for the future projects and ideas. And invite everyone else to share some drinks and wines and to continue discussion with both of them and other colleagues of the audience. So, thanks very much for coming.